Sometimes not being alone is a good thing. Having company in your misery. Misery loves company, like they say. Other times, however, not being alone is not really a good thing. For example, in the context of I was framed as a terrorist by Waldo County law enforcement in order to silence my protests. It would be better if that hadn't happened to anybody else. If that were a singular one-off event. But as it happens, it wasn't. I know of at least one other case. It happened right around the same time that my case went down, of somebody being framed to silence their protests. And that somebody is on your screen now. This Belfast woman found guilty of terrorizing city officials. This is from the Bangor Daily News a few years ago, 2019. And I'm just going to read through this article for a bit here at least. Belfast, Maine. A Waldo County judge found a Belfast woman guilty of terrorizing city officials this week at the close of a 2-day trial that tested the limits of free speech. Laurie Allen, 58, defended herself Tuesday, arguing that the politically charged video she made and shared on YouTube in the fall of 2017 was simply a joke made at the expense of public officials and should be protected under the First Amendment. The video featured her shooting a rifle and calling out several Belfast officials by name. True enough, and I will show that video shortly. That leaves a lot out, though. But after just half an hour of deliberation, Justice Robert Murray said he found Allen's threats to be both credible and not protected under the law. This is the same judge, Robert Murray, who oversaw my trial. I had kind of a different take on it. Maybe he had learned from his, if you will, mistakes with me, because I believe her trial happened shortly after mine. In any event, Allen was sentenced to 18 months in prison for the Class C charge of terrorizing with a dangerous weapon. All but 14 days of the sentence will be suspended. She may be credited with time served when she was initially arrested in February of 2018, and there's also an article about that. And let me just jump over to that article for a moment here and read what they said about her video. It says, this is when right after she was arrested, same picture here. Belfast, Maine. A Belfast woman is in jail after posting a video of herself target shooting with a scoped rifle, listing several city officials by name and saying, "Thanks for being my target." Now that's true enough, but that makes it sound a lot worse than it. Well, I'll let you judge, actually. It leaves a bit out. It has to be taken out of context, I suppose, to some degree. But when put in context, well, I guess, again, I will show the video momentarily. Allen also will now not be allowed to possess or use dangerous weapons, must undergo a mental health evaluation. The state had asked that she be denied access to the internet, but Murray did not agree to that condition, which is good. Allen asked for her sentence to be temporarily stayed, was shocked at the verdict. She told the judge that if she thought the video was illegal or that officials would take it as a threat, she would never have posted it. Where did America go? She asked after leaving the courtroom. Allen wrote a reaction on her personal blog where she often criticizes local officials. That personal blog is called Boycott Belfast. I believe it's still up. But I'm not sure. If it is, I'll try to put a link to it in the description of this video. A joke or a threat? Allen, who has a years-long history of conflict with city officials, she moved here, apparently, I think from New Jersey, it was a couple of years before this happened. and got into a property dispute with a local judge named Judge Worth, who's now retired. And the city officials, she accused them of being corrupt in various ways, and shenanigans going on, and them engaging in, I believe, some illegal sort of threatening tactics and that kind of thing. But I'm not sure of all those details, but it kind of doesn't matter. She was engaged in a property dispute, and she was doing things like protesting, and insert video here of her protesting. You see it on the screen. This is the kind of thing she would do. And this particular video is very significant because this is a protest she did at somewhere where the Belfast Street Fair is happening. Tonight, in fact, Monday, July 31st. Supposed to be a beautiful night. The Belfast Street Fair, the historic Belfast Street Fair, which is, for some reason, the posters have a patriotic, like, Founding Fathers themed feel to them. I don't know what that's about, but what it is, it's like they have a climbing wall and a band and some other stuff and food and stuff. And they close off part of the streets of Belfast here that you see in the video being displayed where Laurie Allen is doing her protest against Judge Worth and others. And but at this point, it's empty. Tonight, it will be filled with people and a band and a climbing wall and all that stuff. Anyway, a good time to protest. Yeah, that would be a good time to protest now that I think of it. Maybe I'll have to go into town and protest about that tonight. I have a sign that says, that mentions the Boycott Belfast thing. In fact. Anyway, a joke or a threat. Allen, who has a years-long history of conflict, said in her closing statement, she said she had never meant harm and that her lack of violent acts over the past 8 years should show she is not a threat. She said she does not own a gun and had only fired a gun on that single occasion where the video was made. Quote, I made a flippant remark, a joke, that I thought would remain private on my playlist, she said of the video. Over the course of the trial, the judge heard from each city official that was named. Councilors Mike Hurley, Eric Sanders. Those are interesting names. Mike Hurley and Eric Sanders are here. They helped frame her, apparently. Mary Mortimer, Neil Harkness, former Councilor John Aronson, City Manager Joe Slocum, and Director of Code and Planning Wayne Marshall each described how they became scared of Allen. Oh, well, she must have threatened them then, right? I mean, if they were scared, let's continue here. Mortimer, the only witness to testify Tuesday, described an incident that took place 5 years or so ago where she arrived early for a meeting at City Hall and found that Allen was parked outside the building. When Mortimer got out of her car, she said Allen came up to her and started screaming and cursing, calling her a murderer and saying that the counselor had murdered her children. That seems like a strange thing to say, and I wonder about that, but it's not a threat. Quote, this was the beginning of the ramping up, unquote, Mortimer said, though. The ramping up of something. Of her being emotionally distraught. Apparently, this Laurie Allen was quite distraught about something this city official was doing. And was accosting her about it. But that's the beginning of the ramping up to some sort of illegal activity. Interesting. In January 2018, the city councilor said she was standing near the bananas at the Hannaford grocery store when she was accosted again. Ms. Allen was nearby and she saw me. She started yelling and cursing at the top of her lungs. She called me a murderer, Mortimer said. As I moved to the bread aisle, she continued, I got out of the store as fast as I could, but you could hear her halfway through the store. That was the night I became very fearful of my safety because this woman was distraught and yelling at her. This other woman, Mortimer, became very fearful of her safety. Okay? No mention of any threat in there, though, just yelling. So Laurie Allen expressed her anger at this city councilor in maybe in an inappropriate way. I don't know, but nothing about a threat in there. But for some reason, this city councilor became very fearful of her safety. After that night, Mortimer changed her behavior. She installed motion detector lights outside her home and won't walk into City Hall alone. Well, she changed her behavior. So clearly there must have been a threat. Obviously. I mean, how could there not have been, right? Then she saw the YouTube video. I was petrified, Mortimer said, when Assistant District Attorney Bill the Weasel, it's my edit there. That's not in the Bangor Daily News. Bill the Weasel Entwistle asked what she was afraid of. The counselor did not hesitate before responding. That I was going to be killed, she said. She was afraid she was going to be killed. Well, because, I mean, after all, this woman had been ramping up. Had threatened her, nothing like that, but anyway, verdict a relief. But Allen, in her closing statement, said that Mortimer and the other witnesses had no evidence to back up their statements of fear. She also read aloud the entirety of an article published in 2010 in the online magazine Slate.com that described how the First Amendment protects the right to free expression as long as there is not a genuine intent to commit or incite violence. Yeah, it should. I mean, that's the standing opinion of pretty much everybody that should matter. In her 8 years of fighting City Hall, she said she had never been violent. Is it legal to take aim at a representation of the president? Quote, is it legal to take aim at a representation of the president? And this also applies to public officials, Allen said. Absolutely. That's from the article, the Slate article. Which I'm going to look at here just briefly so that you know what we're talking about. And it is this, In the Line of Fire, from 2010, Slate.com. A boardwalk game at Seaside, New Jersey features a moving target of President Obama, and contestants hurl baseballs in his direction. And a Pennsylvania amusement company pulled a target shooting game last week that included Obama's image. Is it legal? That's just sort of an intro, I guess. But then it continues. Absolutely. The First Amendment protects the right of free expression, which includes the right to shoot, burn, or in any way destroy an image of anyone, including the president, as long as you're not posing a credible threat. The standard here is whether there is a genuine intent to commit or incite violence, and also whether that violence is likely to actually occur. If there's no clear and present danger, as Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. put it, there's no basis for censorship. Okay, and then it goes on a bit more about that, but that's the basis of it, and that's correct, and that's legal precedent. That's the standing law of the land for all intents and purposes. But Entwistle said in his closing statement that he believed the state's evidence clearly established that Allen had made a threat to commit a crime dangerous to human life and placed people in reasonable fear they would be hurt. Really? Well, we'll look and see. We'll look and see at this credible threat. He said that by posting the target shooting video to a public platform, Allen was clearly communicating the threat. Quote, each named individual took it as being very real, he said. Well, we'll see, YouTube audience, whether you take it as being real. And then he goes on, does Billy Entwistle. This is Belfast, Maine. It's real. It's close. It's not something that can be dismissed just by saying First Amendment, right? So the laws have to be different here in Belfast because it's real, you know? It's close. He's such a sound legal scholar, Billy is. That's why they call him the Weasel, I'm sure, because it's just mind-blowing. His legal thought is just so profound. Yeah, it's close, it's real. We have to change the law. The law has to be different here because it's close and real. Sanders said later, Tuesday, that the verdict came as a relief. I feel that the judge heard my concerns. Let's hope Laurie does, he said. We're all concerned about our safety. Well, this is just, oh my goodness. Wowsy woodles, huh? I mean, we gotta take a look at this threat video here. Because it's just, I mean, it's just really got to be something out of this world. Crazy, scary, right? So, here you go, in its entirety, from Laurie Allen's own YouTube channel. 10, 2017. First target shooting practice, something like that. Here we go.
Joyce's turn. Never shot before. I was good in archery though in camp when I was 8, 7, whatever.
That target, or you just want to shoot something?
You don't got to fix it. You don't have to fix it. I'm not going to.
Oh, you will.
I want to shoot the target. Hey, I want to shoot the target. Let me have fun.
Hey, hold on, let me fix it. Stop.
It ain't on red. We're good. All right?
Yeah, just point it away down.
Yeah. That's what he says.
Start it. There you go. You're good to go, baby.
All right.
Yep, you can slide the safety forward and you're ready to go. Yeah. All right, she's ready to roll. Got 9 shots.
Oh, this is nice. What'd I get? Let's go look. Safety on. Oh, that's fun. That's nothing. That's a little weenie gun for Laurie. I like it. And little bullets.
You got it.
What'd I get?
Right there.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm good, too. Didn't you know that?
Six more.
All right.
Just 9
3,
bullets.
4.
And it's auto loader, so every time it loads itself.
That's nice.
It's automatic.
He's automatic. Just like me. It's not even that loud either. I don't need to. Alright, I'm set. Oh, this is cool. I don't even need that stand.
Safety on. When you're ready.
Huh?
Your safety's on.
It's okay that this didn't smoke on it.
Yes.
Done.
You're on bullets.
I'm done. Nothing else. Yeah, man, I did it. 999. Hey. I'm gonna bring the camera over. John's gonna point out I hit some. Fucking Miss Piggy Mortier, Mike Curley, Sanders, Harkness, Arison, Slocum, Marshall, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for being my target, you assholes.
Look, you shot it all full of holes.
I shot off full of holes. And I ain't got no gun. This is John's. Don't shoot me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
I died.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I got them all, right? On there?
Yeah, they're
on
all
9?
in there. Nice group. That
Nice
wasn't
group.
bad.
I'm all right.
Not bad for your first try.
Not at all. Watch your ass, buddy.
All right. I gotta put another one.
I'll watch your ass. Go ahead, keep on walking. Look at that Dupka. Oh, Johnny! Who's your girl? Who's your girl? He's acting like he can't hear me. It's bullshit. Look at these little things. Tell me you can't hear in these little peanuts. All right, bye.
And I ain't got no gun. This is John's. Don't shoot me. Yeah, that sounds like she was gonna rush right out, didn't she? She was so obviously seriously gonna jump right out there and I guess borrow John's gun and kill them all, obviously, right? Because they were city officials, and she was trying to hold them accountable for things, and and the way she did it was maybe not 100% appropriate, maybe even borderline, the kind of thing that protection from harassment is meant to address. A civil procedure where you put someone on notice. Look, please leave me alone, because you're being inappropriate. There's a whole legal framework for that. I've been subject to it multiple times. But a lot of times, but the thing is, it's hard to completely silence you. They managed it one time by arresting me and making sure I was not at court. And then the judge was able to sign all kinds of rights away from me. But normally they can't get away with that. Normally, you're not in jail, and you can, if something like that happens, you can appeal it outside of Waldo County, and things will change. But yeah, in any event, that's what one. I would argue that's what exactly the kind of thing. If she was being inappropriate in the way she was, dealing with these counselors, then protection from harassment. She wasn't making threats, though. They don't even claim she was making threats. They just claim they were scared. And that was the same exact thing that Billy Boy tried to do, Billy the Weasel Entwistle tried to do at my trial. He got a whole bunch of people together. Well, that was the whole plan from the beginning. They all got together, talked about how frightened they were of me. They watched my video that contained the alleged threats. Or a couple of them, maybe. I'm not entirely sure yet. But they all wrote about how scared they were of me, and then they came to court and they all said, but mostly they didn't. When they actually got on the stand, it all fell apart. One woman just complained about how she was justified in getting me fired, essentially, And that was her whole thing. That's all she cared about. And somebody else got on the stand and recanted their testimony and broke down in tears. And then somebody else got on the stand, and her stories were pretty wild, let's say. Penny Ward. Any of it. That's my case. It relates to Laurie Allen's case in that way, though. That's the whole thing. Not a credible thing. In fact, I was, again, just to jump back to me for a second, everybody from the arresting officer to the Judge Murray at the end said that I didn't commit a crime. Admitted it. You may not have committed I forget how Jordan Tozier, the arresting officer, said it. He said, you may not have threatened anybody. Oh, but yeah, you might not have threatened anybody, but we can still get a conviction, is what he told me. And then the judge at the end, I said, look, Your Honor, at sentencing, I didn't do anything illegal, basically. My words were a very unfortunate choice of words. I'm never going to say anything like that again, but it wasn't illegal. And he said, Justice Murray, at my trial, said, this is again before Laurie Allen's trial, he said, well, you may not have said anything illegal, but it was not an unfortunate choice of words. It was a very deplorable choice of words, and something like that. I don't know. But that was the gist of it. He tacitly agreed with me that I hadn't said anything illegal. But then by the time we get to Laurie Allen's case, he's saying, well, did I read that part? Because that's an interesting little bit there. He says that in order to justify his finding, he deliberates for half an hour, and then he finds her guilty of breaking the terrorizing statute, posing a credible threat based on people's testimony, and who, by the way, she had an ongoing conflict with. So these are vested players. These are not just some random folks. And he deliberates for half an hour, and then his justification is the First Amendment doesn't protect every kind of speech. I forget the exact quote. I believe it was in the article I just read. And that's like, I mean, it's like saying, why is this person guilty of murder? Well, the Constitution doesn't protect every kind of physical act. Some kinds of physical acts are prohibited. I mean, it was just a very, very general. It had nothing to do with anything except I have some, tenuous as it may be, I have some legal justification for coming down on this decision. He is. I used to think he was okay, Murray, but he's friends with Billy the Weasel Entwistle, because oftentimes at the end of my Zoom court meetings, everything will get logged off, but they'll still be connected, and I'll still be connected, but it's officially over. But he'll turn to Bill, or say to Bill Entwistle something like, so Bill, how you been? I haven't seen you for I've seen that kind of thing happen a couple of times. They're friends, they're buddies, and Bill Entwistle has lied, bold-faced, open, and been caught out by me in front of this guy multiple times. Just straight up lies, but he believes him every time. Like it's like that never happened. Every single time he takes him at his word. Even though the guy has lied in front of his face again and again and again and again and again. Not under oath, but in a court of law. I don't think DAs are under oath exactly. In any event. There's one more little tidbit. Here. And that is this annual Belfast street party going on tonight, July 31st from 5 to 9. Looks like a big shadoo. And the weather's good, so it's not going to be canceled. Well, you know what? I was looking into it, and there's some people that are involved in that are, well, interesting. Like Michael D. Hurley is a big player in it. He's soliciting volunteers for help. So you may recall he was in that. He was one of the councilors, city councilors, I believe, at that time. He was also previously been mayor and some other stuff. Anyway, I think he was a city councilor at the time that went down. Anyway, he was one of the people that testified against Laurie Allen, that framed her as a terrorist to silence her, because that's what it was. Yeah, and then there was that Eric Saunders who was in here somewhere. He's part of this as well, and he was another one that helped her. So in any event, yeah, I may be down there at the annual street party, the historic Belfast street party, boycotting the tyranny that is clearly on display here. And I still haven't heard anything about me being assaulted when I protested there last time. And last time I tried to protest in Belfast and was assaulted and all of that. Still no word on that. So I think the plan is to just ignore me and hope I go away, maybe. Well, I won't be. So maybe I'll see y'all at the street party there. Whoever shows up, probably a whole lot of people. And I'll tell them about Boycott Belfast and the Laurie Allen story. Because I bet some people don't want that story known. Anyway, there you go. I hope you found this useful or entertaining, informative, or something. And if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, doodle, whatever else you do. Keep fighting, and peace out.